Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Caroline and today we're going to talk about which is worse, physical illness or mental illness. So a disclaimer before we start the video. I am not here to invalidate anyone's experiences with physical illness or mental illness. This video is not to offend anyone. That's not what I'm trying to do. This video is based on my own personal experience with both physical illness and mental illness. So which is worse, physical illness or mental illness? I want to mention that the physical illness I have is morbus Crohn, an inflammatory bowel disease, and the mental illness I have is ADD, and back in 2020 I went down with depression and anxiety. And it is the Crohn and depression and anxiety that I am using to tell you about why I think one is worse than the other. So, which is worse, physical illness or mental illness? Well, in my own personal experience, mental illness is so much worse than physical illness, and I have 3 good reasons, in my own opinion, for why. The first reason I think mental illness is way worse than physical illness is because of the symptoms and the pain you experience. When you experience physical pain, we all tried some sort of physical pain, right? It's horrific. I'm not saying that the pain my Crohn's can give me, oh my dear God, I have seen death a few times coming for me, but it's a pain you can do something about. Or rather, you can often do something about it, like taking pain medicines or something like that. Whereas the pain that I have experienced from having depression and anxiety is so horrific, I can't explain it. It's the pain that is so hard to explain. It's like your soul is hurting. Physical pain, you often understand, right? My stomach hurts, right? My arm hurts, my whatever. But you can't really place the pain when it's mental. Your soul is hurting and you don't even really know why. And it's a very dark, cold, lonely kind of a pain. Really hard to explain if you haven't tried it, but it's like being in a tunnel that is really, really cold and dark and there's no light at the end of it. It's horrible. I have to say I prefer physical pain over mental pain because it's on another level. It's a different type of pain that is really hard to explain. You kind of have to try it to understand it. After trying it and understanding it, it's horrible. The second reason I think mental illness is worse than physical illness is because when you experience symptoms, when you have physical illness, your instinct is to do something about it. Your instinct is to survive. So when I, for example, have pain in my bowel, my instinct will be to remember to take my meds, call the doctor, call the ER, depending a little bit on the situation. But I will do something actively in order to, get rid of the bowel pain. I will, if you have symptoms, maybe you haven't even been diagnosed yet, but you feel like you have, in my case, something like diarrhea would be a symptom, and you've had that for quite a while, you would probably call the doctor and say, I don't think it's normal, but I've had diarrhea for like a month, right? So your instinct is to do something about it because it's a physical symptom and it makes you uncomfortable or maybe even pain. Maybe it's horrendously painful. So your instinct is to do something about it and to survive it. When you have mental illness, that's not the case. You do not have any instinct to survive whatsoever. Actually, it's quite often actually the opposite, that you don't want to survive. And it's really hard to explain because right before I just said having depression and anxiety is a pain that is completely unexplainable. And it's horrific, so why won't you do anything about it? And I don't know. It's this really dark place and you're just not motivated to do anything. It takes so much for someone to reach out for help when they have mental illness. Because first you have to recognize you might actually need help, that this is not just how you're supposed to feel, and then you have to actually call it out, and you just don't have the instinct to do so. You're just not really trying to do anything about it. It takes a lot to actually make that phone call to the doctor. Again, it's so hard to explain if you haven't tried it, but you just don't have a survival instinct when it comes to mental illness. You just don't. You don't see not surviving as a bad option, and that's scary. That's really scary. The third reason why I think mental illness is worse than physical illness is because mental illness is not taken as seriously as physical illness in our society in general. Even though we are living in 2023, it's still not something we take that seriously. And I want to say that when it comes to physical illness, within the physical illness field, there is, I know, a hierarchy between the physical illnesses as well. A very horrible hierarchy. Some physical illnesses are taken more serious than others and so on. So I'm very much aware of that. But when you take physical illness in general and mental illness in general, physical illness is taken way more seriously. And this is both by the healthcare system. The healthcare system often have more and use more resources on physical illnesses. It's not taken as serious by the politicians either. They are definitely not investing in psychiatry, at least not in Denmark. And so, yeah, I don't know. I guess there's no votes in it. I don't know. It's also not taken that serious by the general population. And with this, I of course understand that there are obviously people in this world who take it very seriously, including all of us who've had it or have it. And also people who choose to work in the field and stuff like that. Obviously, plenty of people are taking it serious, but in general, a lot of people are not taking it seriously. I've heard people say that mental illness doesn't exist, that it's just because we are weak. The modern person is weak. So, and because we are weak, we need a diagnosis so that we can, get this label that we are weak. Ooh, be careful, I'm weak. Something like that. I've also heard people say that it's fashionable for especially young women to have anxiety. So they don't really have anxiety. They just want to be a part of the newest trend. And there is in general also a lot of taboo about it. Like if you have been, a lot of people struggle with, if they have been admitted to a psychiatric hospital, for example, and they come out and they're like going on a date or something, like, should I tell them that I've been there? Like, what am I, I'm not sure. So there's a lot of taboo about it. There's also a lot of myth. If you've been admitted to a psychiatric hospital, let's face it, everybody's going to think you're a complete lunatic, right? And that's so far away from the truth. So just a lot of myth and taboo and not really taking it seriously. And it probably has something to do with, when it comes to physical illness, you can measure the illness somehow. You maybe even see it in a scan. You can see it in blood tests. You can, you can measure it somehow. And mental illness, not so much. It's more like, you're being asked all these questions by a psychiatrist. And then they make an evaluation of how likely they think it is that you have depression and anxiety or ADD or schizophrenia, whatever you have, right? And then they try and treat it, and if it works, that's probably what you had. If it didn't work, then that's probably not what you have. That's kind of the way it is, so you can't really measure it in the same way, and I think that's one of the reasons it's not taken as seriously. But I think it's really sad that we live in 2023 and people are still having so much ignorance when it comes to mental illness. So the funny thing is when it's not funny, but when you have mental illness, you, like I said before, you don't really have the instinct to survive. So on top of not having the instinct to survive, you also, when you do get in touch with the healthcare system, it's so much harder to get the help you actually need, they don't have the same amount of resources. So even if there is someone who wants to help you, they don't have the same resources. And so you not only did you use every little tiny thing you had in you to make yourself call the doctor, you also have to fight to get the help you need. And that's a really bad combination, because a lot of people just with mental illness just gives up because they are depressed. They feel like hell, right? And nobody wants to help them, and they feel let down, they feel alone, and they, you know, worst case scenario, decide not to be existing anymore. That it's a really horrible combination, that you're not taken as serious when you have a mental illness, because you don't have the same instinct to survive. You don't have the same instinct to fight, but you have to fight so much harder than when you have physical illness. That's a really bad combination, really bad. But that was my 3 reasons why I personally think mental illness is way worse to have than physical illness. And again, I'm not invalidating anyone's experience with physical illness. Like I said, I have Crohn's. Trust me, I have been to hell and back with that disease many times. But I do personally think that mental illness is way worse. Because, well, like I said, the pain is on another level. You don't have any instinct to survive, and you're not taking that seriously. It's just the whole experience I've had with mental illness is just way worse than the one I had with physical illness. So that's my own personal opinion, but trust me, I understand physical illness sucks just as much. And I also understand that there is a hierarchy within the physical illnesses. There shouldn't be. There shouldn't actually, like, I feel like nothing should be more prioritized than other things. I really don't think so. It's wrong to think that something is more important than other things. I really think that's bullshit. But I hope you really liked the video, and please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, turn on notifications, share the video, do your thing. And I'll see you next time right here on my channel, The Art of Being Ill.